Greetings, Void visitors. What you are about to hear is cutting room floor content from our Hard to Be a God episode. Normally, we release cutting room floor stuff on our Ko-fi, so if you sign up on ko-fi.com/emissaries from the void, you can get behind the scenes content for several of our tracks. Not everyone. Sometimes we don't have as much to say, but we've got about a dozen of these little bonus featurettes that range from 10 to 30 minutes typically. This one is 40 minutes because we had a lot to say about Hard to Be a God. So again, please consider supporting us at ko-fi.com/emissaries from the void, ko-fi.com/emissary from the void. One more thing that will probably just be cutting room floor. Since we're talking about this movie's cynicism,
yes,
let's compare it to Antichrist, which was a very cynical movie that we had a very negative reaction to.
Sure.
Maybe it comes down to that American versus Russian cynicism. There's also the difference that Antichrist was very cynical about individuals and individual relationships, whereas this is more broadly societal.
Both films operate under the central premise that humanity has a core problem with cruelty.
Yeah.
So both films say that humans are cruel by nature.
Yeah.
However, the differences are that Hard to Be a God is showing that people are trying to fix it. Maybe not succeeding, but they're trying. Antichrist is basically saying no one is actually trying to fix anything. Like the art of trying to fix things is futile, whereas in Hard to Be a God, it's more the art of trying to fix things is very difficult. It's brutal and hard, and it's gonna break you. But you're at no point is the task seen as fruitless. In fact, it's seen as Ramada breaking, snapping, and killing all those people is a bad thing because he undermined all progress that he might have been making. That's why it's bad that he did that. Whereas in Antichrist, it's basically showing like Will killing his wife is seen as a good thing.
Right.
He's released her from her suffering. She's like, they're both about punishment, but like one is about flagellation and the other one's about annihilation. Like you could almost compare it to the difference between Catholic penance and the flood in the Bible. So God's wrath in a biblical sense is something external that is brought upon you by your actions. The wickedness of the world. You can kind of see a lot of the supposed wickedness of the land of Nod that is described leading to the flood in the Bible.
Yeah.
In Hard to Be a God.
Yeah.
Whereas in Antichrist, it seems more focused on penance for your sins.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like Old Testament versus New Testament. Right? Because like New Testament Christianity, at least Catholicism is all about like penance for your sins. You go to purgatory to pay penance for your sins. That's like their current beliefs, right? And purgatory is from Dante, and it's Christian fan fiction, but it's been canonized at this point, right? Catholics actually believe in purgatory because it's a convenient belief to have.
Yeah.
Right. Because like there's all these questions, right? Like, you know, does everyone go to hell who isn't baptized? Okay.
Right.
What about the people who were baptized, but they were also kind of shitheads in their life? Well, they don't just go to heaven right away. They go through purgatory. They go through, right. Okay. But in purgatory, you pay penance for your sins.
Yeah.
and to tell your soul is cleansed of your sins, and then you get to go to heaven. That's kind of what Antichrist is kind of mocking, right? Whereas hard to be a god is more talking about like the Old Testament God, right? Kind of like Mad God. Mad God's Old Testament,
Right.
So you basically like when you're talking about something that is engaging with the idea of God in a Western sense, you're either talking about Old Testament or New Testament God. Old Testament God is the floods and plagues and strike you with boils and right. And the New Testament God is you will pay penance for your sins in order to cleanse your soul. And there is flagellation and penance in the Old Testament too, but it's not as front and center as it is brought by the Catholics. There's over 1 billion Catholics in the world, so their paradigm for this is very front and center in our mind space. When people think of Christianity, a lot of people think of a Catholic church, unless they themselves were raised in a different group, right?
Right.
But if you just ask a random person in a Muslim country to say, what does Christianity look like? They'll probably be like, oh, it's ornate or, Latin.
Right. I don't know if the New Testament, like the flagellation and penance.
When I say New Testament, I'm just talking about like Christianity versus old school Old Testament fucking God. Because the Old Testament before the New Testament was written, they were all Jews. Right. So they all had this idea of what God is. God is a being that must be appeased so that you avoid his wrath. You do sacrifices to him. You do all this kind of stuff. Right. But in like terms of current Christianity, they don't think of it like that. Your penance is not to kill a bull and burn it on the altar. Your penance is to whip yourself. Your penance is to Hail Mary. Your penance is to do this thing. Because like other denominations of Christianity don't have penance as a thing. It's really only Catholics and Orthodoxes. Yeah. But that's the majority of them. Like the majority of Christians in the world are those two denominations. Therefore, a majority of Christians think of penance. You must pay for your sins. That informs so much. And that's part of like what informs a lot of modern problems with conservative Christianity, is that they have this idea of retributive justice because they think of penance for your sins. Right. Okay. So I'm not talking about the actual text itself. I'm talking about how people view God. Right.
I see what you're saying.
Because like Mad God, for example, opens with a quote from Leviticus. Right. It's an abridged quote, but it's just a quote from Leviticus. And it's brutal. Like I will make you a desolation so that your enemies weep. Yeah. Like that's fucking brutal. That's God's wrath. Yeah. To desolate you so much that even your enemies weep for you because of how much I've ruined you. Yeah. Yeah. Could you imagine? Think of your most hated enemy. How much do they have to get brutalized for you to be like, wow, like I weep for you. Right.
Now that we've inevitably brought it back to Mad God, there is like kind of even more kind of parallels with Hard to Be a God in the character of the alchemist, and how the alchemist in Mad God engages in the cruelty of the world, but is on her own path, and she's trying to improve things, if our reading is correct. So there is kind of a similar sense of purpose between the alchemist and Don Ramada.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and now that you're pointing it out, exactly, they're basically the same character, because they're both trying to fix a broken system by using the mechanics of the system.
Yeah. Maybe Don Ramada at the end of the film is more like in the position that we see the alchemist in during Mad God, because the alchemist is very in control and has been doing this for a long time.
And is jaded.
Yeah.
Because you know, at the start, we don't get to see this, but we can envision that Ramada is like the alchemist at the top of the tower.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, very high and mighty and so powerful. And then God comes down, and in the form of, in this world, God is pain and suffering. And so God has come down and ruined that. The unity that you seek is being torn apart by God.
Yeah.
And I would say that quote of a desolation that even your enemies would weep for is definitely something that happens in Hard to Be a God as well.
Yeah.
The city is destroyed utterly. And, you know, the kid is like playing with the corpses, which I thought was kind of weird. But like the guy that shows up, the bald guy that I guess is another observer, I don't really know his name or whatever, but he's like, wow, what have you done? Like,
fuck, dude.
Yeah. Like, you know, and it's just like, he hands him a glove and he's like, you'll need this. And then Ramada goes on a whole rant about like how, oh, you're challenging me to a duel now. Like, fine, we'll have a duel, but I'm tired now, so we'll do it later. Like, is what he says. You pity Ramada, I think, at the end of this. Because he kind of just wanted to take this girl and go back to Earth, I think, was his plan.
Yeah.
And could you imagine being that girl? Like, your whole life has been spent in this suffering, and then somebody just takes you away and you go to a place where everyone is happy and fine. Because that's what he promises.
Right. And
it's like, that's an interesting element of this, you know?
One scene that we didn't talk about was him freeing the slave.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then the slave just immediately dying.
Yeah. Like, I didn't really catch like kind of the lead into it, but they have this slave who's chained up. He's been on a chain his entire life, and they're like,
he's been on the chain since he was 3 years old or whatever they say.
Yeah. And they're like, you can't just let him go. He doesn't know anything else. He'll die. But he cuts the chain, and then this slave runs down the street a little ways, and it's like some birds fly out of a window as he passes it, and that kind of startles him, and he starts running back, and then he just keels over.
Yeah.
And
it's definitely like the most, like, the only thing that actually took me out of this film was that.
Yeah.
But, you know, he could have died for any other means. The point is that, like, it's, as the Matrix puts it, a prison for your mind. That's what this is.
Right.
The cruelty, the atrocity engine is a prison for your mind, because you are, from the same way that the homunculi and Mad God are designed and built to just propagate this machine of suffering.
Yeah.
The slaves only know the machine of suffering. The very engine that torments them is propped up by their labor.
Yeah.
And by trying to free them, you can't just, like, so it's almost like you can almost see this as a spiritual echo and response to Mad God, because Mad God's saying, oh, well, we just take the machine apart. We just blow the machine up. We just rip it all down. And this film is saying, no, because if you do that, then people don't know anything else and they'll just die. Like, which is a good point. That's a good counterpoint to Mad God's argument. You can't just blow up the machine. You can't just destroy the atrocity engine. Well, you have to dismantle the atrocity engine.
That was kind of the Last Man's take on it. I don't know if
that wasn't necessarily the Alchemist's take, but that is how the movie ends. The movie ends with the bomb clicking over, and where we don't see the explosion, but it's implied that this goal has been achieved.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just kind of basically saying, like, that when we talk about the text of Mad God versus the text of Hard to Be a God, what we're really analyzing is two different takes on the same kind of nihilism. Because Mad God's like, well, we want to destroy the atrocity engine. We want to take it apart. We want to destroy it. We're sending assassins down to kill it, because we recognize that it's just a tool to propagate suffering.
We're derailing the Snowpiercer.
Yeah, exactly. Like, And Snowpiercer has a very ambiguous ending, you know, like how it did,
because there's only 2 people left.
yeah, exactly.
There's more.
Maybe more people survived, but that's not the point. The point is you can't just destroy the system without any kind of backup plan.
Yeah.
The Greys who show up and just take all your shit and kill all of you. These people in this film are state-sanctioned soldiers. They are not just bandits showing up and just doing whatever they feel like. They are on orders from a higher power that has told them to do these things. One only needs to look 2 degrees to the left in the real world and see the very same thing is happening before our very eyes. Like, because people are living in Arkanar. They're not like, these Greys are everywhere. They're saturated through the whole society, and they'll just be killing somebody, and other people will just be like terrified in their houses, and they'll be backing away, and they'll be like, you know, don't come after me. Don't come after me, you know?
Yeah.
It's the same thing that's happening right now in our very eyes. And it's a byproduct of the system, because any system in which one group has the monopoly on violence, that group will eventually become the sole power in that civilization. So one of the big problems of our current society, and we're speaking as Americans here for anybody who's listening abroad, is that we have 3 branches of government, but only one of them actually has any actual violence that they can enforce.
Yeah.
Because if you go to court and a judge makes a court order against you, that judge's court order is enforced by the executive branch, the police, the military, whatever, right? Depending on your crime. I mean, God, you know what I mean?
Right,
but,
right.
But the judicial has no ability to enforce anything without the executive. So our executive branch right now, Trump, our current leader of government, he just realized the truth. Paper isn't power. He can do whatever he wants because they can say whatever they want on these documents, but he controls the military and he can do whatever he wants. And obviously there are things that are preventing him from doing certain things, because he does have people he answers to in terms of a direct line, you know, his billionaire friends and whoever, right? But that's the point, is that he is from the other side realized the great lie of civilization, which is that paper is not power. It's just paper. You can put whatever you want on a document.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's kind of what this film is showing. It's just like, the only way you really have power is through violence, or through threats of violence, or implied violence. And in case it's not been made clear to our audience, making people starve on the street and freeze to death, that is violence.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to be out there hitting someone up the head with a nightstick, or shooting them with a gun, or setting them on fire, or drowning them in a shithole. You can just starve them to death, create institutions that prop up cruelty and deny people their rights. And these rights that we've agreed upon, because we all don't want to die. No one wants to be murdered. No one wants to have their freedom taken away from them. Nobody wants to be deprived of the ability to pursue their own happiness. That's why those 3 are inalienable rights, because we all agree that they're good things. But the only way that you can preserve them is by dissolving a state and disseminating it amongst people. And that's what I think the renaissance that the observers are trying to uplift is, trying to get people to realize that by centralizing authority in these few people is the problem, because the centralized authorities in this world are fucking stupid and cruel, and they are evil. And if the civilization did not have that centralized state, if each person took responsibility for their part of the civilization, it would not be so easy to acquire the monopoly on violence. If each person is responsible for their own part of the world, and I'm not talking like in a libertarian way. I just mean like, you as a person understand that you have a role to play in making the civilization functional, instead of just being a cog in the machine, or just being a busy worker drone. That's the heart of anarchist philosophy, is that each person is responsible for an aspect of the society. There is no state separate from people that is enforcing that cruelty upon them.
Right. Okay.
with that in mind, and we look at this film, it's basically just explaining why our current society is dysfunctional by ripping away all of the polish. Most of us are slaves. Like, we don't call it that.
Right. Yeah.
But we're all debt slaves. We all have mass amounts of debt.
Mm-hmm.
We have all of these obligations. You got to pay for your rent. You got to pay for... nowadays, having a cell phone and the internet are mandatory. So those are things you got to pay for.
Yeah.
Like, my job, I have to use my cell phone to get into all of my stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So if I don't have a cell phone, I can't do my job.
Yeah.
If I have all of these obligations on myself that imprison me and keep me from doing what I would want to do with my life, which is make podcasts and enjoy art and watch art.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make art, enjoy art, and talk about art. That's what I really want to do.
Yep.
But I am forced to do this banal job just to survive.
Yeah.
And it's not a first world problem. It's not a third world problem. We're all stuck in this on different levels. Like, yeah, sure, I have like luxuries that other people don't have, but it's all hollow and ash at the end of the day, because it's just a smoke screen. It's a vapor. It's an illusion.
Yeah. Or distraction.
It's distraction. Yeah. It's, bread and circuses. That's what it is.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm still fucked. If I missed a paycheck, I'd be fucked.
Yeah.
If I got like stuck up in a hospital and I was on medical leave, I'd be fucked.
Yep.
If I got fired tomorrow, I'd be fucked. Most Americans don't even have more than $500 in their savings at any given time.
Right. Yeah, and even if you are a little bit better off and you have a little bit of a safety net, it's still hollow in the sense that most of our labor is either an outright grift or
pointless.
Yeah, like we don't own the fruits of our labor, and we don't even get to most of us do something worth doing.
Right, like what function does my job serve other than to answer problems that are created by the very institution that I work for?
Right.
Because every company is exploitative.
Mm-hmm.
And my labor is worth more than I'm paid for it. But my labor would be unnecessary if we lived in a system that actually prioritized people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I remember hearing somebody talk about like why games like Farmville or Animal Crossing or even Terraria are popular, and they theorized that it was because it's like the fantasy of like owning your own labor.
Yeah, like owning your own labor and having a community that isn't propped up by exploitation.
Yeah, except for Tom Nook, but
Yeah, but like, okay, so Tom Nook is kind of a cheapskate, but like...
But it's still a system that
he gives
you can win.
He gives you a loan to build up your house.
Yeah.
And then you pay him back whenever you want to. Like, there's no timeline on paying him back.
He's not going to evict you.
Yeah, there's no threat of eviction. There's no, like... Yeah. That's like... People like Animal Crossing because the fantasy is that you can just... You just vibe, and it's okay. Like, it's okay to spend your time picking flowers and catching bugs and filling out a museum, and like the central fantasy of that escapism is that we live in a society that would be functional enough that we can just vibe.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is like, we've convinced ourselves that we're so much better off, but like, the work is a scam. Like, as technology has improved, back in the 20s, they said that as technology improves, the average worker will only have to work 20 hours a week.
Right.
But all they've done is just give us more work. Now that the technology does the work for us, they just give us more work.
Yeah. AI is kind of ultimate
fuck you, basically.
well, the ultimate extension of that idea of like this technology can do all of your work, but you're still going to have to find a way to make us money.
And also, like, it doesn't do it well.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of a separate issue because like the idea of AI is that it will improve. I think that in most cases there's diminishing returns to the point where it can never like truly replace humans, but the idea of it is to replace humanity.
I like to talk to a human being when I talk to people.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to a robot.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to a robot because a robot doesn't understand what it means to be human.
Yeah.
And that's like the civilization wants us to be machines. That's why all these big fat cat billionaire fucks, that's why they invest in all of this, because their ultimate jerk off fantasy is that they could have an army of worker drones that prints them money.
Yeah.
But the Ouroboros of that is that when everyone's replaced by AI, who is making money to buy your stuff?
Yeah, and I think that, you know, this is kind of my cynical conspiracy theorist coming out, but I think that a lot of these technocrats are counting on or actively bringing about a sort of mini extinction where a lot of the world population will die out, and so they won't have as many people to like have to feed, and then what's left they can rule.
Elon Musk doesn't know how to build a house.
Well, yeah.
These billionaires, they love to think that they're superior, but they don't know how to do shit. They don't know how to do fuck all. They pay people for that.
Right.
If suddenly the entire population of the world fucking died, good luck repairing your things. Good luck keeping your infrastructure active.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's a viable strategy.
It's fucking
in the long
stupid.
term, but
That's the point, though. Like, that's what this is. Like, Arcanar is just that.
yeah.
It's gross and disgusting, and like, it's only existing that way because people are not allowing there to be actual progress.
Yeah.
Like, these people at the top, in Ramada's no different. Like, he's a rich aristocrat in this world.
Yeah.
Like, he's the same he's part of the problem. Like, because he's not actually helping anybody, even though he's trying to help, because he can't help by being a member. You can't become a billionaire and fix the problems of the world because the system will rebel against you.
Yeah.
There'll be a Don Reba to fuck you over. You just can't escape it. The only way is to get people to realize that paper is not power. Paper isn't power. Money doesn't mean fuck all. If we as a group of people, if we as a population just said, you know what, your money doesn't mean anything to us. This is our money now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then these billionaires would be out in the cold.
Yeah. But there has to be like kind of a critical mass of consensus, and there has to be systems in place to replace what we have.
Sure, but
the bare theory stands that
the powerful, the elite, are panicking because our generation and the younger ones, we own nothing. We have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And we don't fucking care anymore. So they can try to scare us with all this, oh, America's so great, or and you look at all these threats from the outside, or oh, you remember when it was cool, or remember when this happened. Well, I don't give a single fuck. I've lived in a world my entire life where I've had nothing but what I've been able to scraps together myself.
Yeah.
And I've watched my mother struggle. I've watched my family struggle, and that's it. None of us give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
We know damn well that they don't care about us. So
Yeah.
they think they're gods, and they think it's so hard to be them. But the truth is that if they just stopped fucking over everybody and put a little bit of their resource, just a fraction of their resources, into doing anything for the common person, they would be much more comfortable, and they would be far less under siege. They're scared of losing their power, but they're doing the very thing that makes them lose their power.
Right.
Oh, well, anyway, lots of leftist talk in this.
Yeah.
This is a deceptively leftist lens by which you can view this film. Like, I'm sure it was not intended that way, but like when I was watching it, now that I'm thinking about it, like there's a lot of that I can see in it. Made by ex-Soviets, it kind of makes sense, but when you have this fascist conquering force, you will have true nihilists follow that force, like true believers in that. And you can see this in the source material, because like the Stalinist USSR, the head executioner of that, he had a quota for how many people he killed every day. Like, for the quota he set himself. No one told him to do that. He just had a quota.
Gotcha.
He's like, I'm going to kill 100 people a day. And he did. He killed 100 people a day for years.
Wow.
And he would just bring them into a room, shoot them, bring the next one in the room. It was super efficient. He wrote in his personal diary that he had gotten it down to like he could kill someone in 28 seconds or something like that. Like, he bragged that he had become so efficient at the kill room thing that he could bring them in and have them dead in 28 seconds. He's a black in terms of the what this is saying. Like, that's a true believer in that nothing matters and that everyone deserves to die.
Yeah.
We get so much of it, and it's kind of ambiguous as who's who. Like, the Greys all have these helmets, right? But the people who work for the Tower of Joy, which is the Blacks' headquarters, they don't really seem to have a uniform as much.
Yeah.
But we have scenes where you, by context, put together that these are people from the Tower of Joy.
Yeah, and they like hand out these
like wooden sickles, basically.
Yeah, I guess little paddles that have a crime written on them. Like, I don't even remember any of them, but like,
well, it doesn't really matter what they are, because the tower, the Tower of Joy just hands them out and is like, you must come to the Tower of Joy if you receive one of these things, and you will receive your punishment. Yeah, basically. And later on, we get someone come, and like Ramada's like, this is death, life, death, life, death, life. Like, you have both death and life per our judgment for all of these crimes, is what he basically said. He goes on a whole rant about it. Why do they call it the Tower of Joy?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do you think they call it the Tower of Joy?
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of like a...
Is it like a mockery? Are they making fun of people for calling it, like, they call it Tower of Joy because it mocks people, or...
I'm far from an expert on like the Spanish Inquisition or anything, but it does feel like something where they would be like, see like some kind of ecstasy in penance, even if it's extreme. Kind
of like the dark side of those limit experiences we were talking about.
Yeah.
Right, because like something that didn't get brought up in our Hellraiser episode. Limit experiences aren't good, I don't think, in the long run.
Okay.
Like,
psychologically.
Right. Well, because like, think about this. Like, you can't relate to people anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if you make a society that calls the Tower of Joy is the place where people go to be tortured and murdered and whatever, you're basically saying that you worship lament and suffering. You worship those things. Those things are what are valuable. And like, the idea of pain as God is not unique to this film.
Yeah.
And that seems to be it. Like, if you had to describe the dominant spiritual faith people have in it, it's in cruelty and it's in suffering, because everybody in this film suffers, enacts suffering on other people. They do horrible things to each other and then just laugh about it. Like,
there's a lot of gallows.
Yeah. My favorite shot in this film is just us panning through like 20 people hanging from this gallows.
Yeah.
And then we get one shot where we have the guy hanging in the foreground, and then in the background we just see like a huge two or three huge pyres and people dancing around them laughing, and we just hold on that shot for like 20 seconds. It was like really long. I was like, we were sitting there and I was like looking at it, I was like, wow, this is desolate beauty.
Yeah.
And I think that this film has a weird, beautiful side to it.
Yeah.
That is kind of trying to show why this cruelty is so seductive. Like, we're like, these artfully beautiful shots that we get of pain and misery are because to the people of this world, that is God. That is rapture. That is ascendancy. Like, to be in control of this cruelty. Like, sure, like, they don't get the cruelty done to them. They're doing it to other people, and they themselves feel powerful because of that.
Yeah. I definitely wasn't thinking along those lines when we were watching it, but I definitely appreciated those shots as a relief from the rest of the movie, which is very claustrophobic and chaotic. There's a lot of people coming in and out of frame and just like shoving things in.
Stuff hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, stuff dripping from the ceiling. Just
most of it makes sense. Like, a lot of it's just like supplies being hung up, or like dried meats or whatever. But there's like one scene, like there's a sack hanging from the wall and it's just oozing, and I'm like, why do we have this oozing sack on the
like, and it's also just the way that it's filmed and how we're like shoved into it.
Yeah.
And then we get these like serene moments where nobody's spitting and nobody's like shoving rotten food in the camera. The final shot of the movie is also like really, really strong, haunting composition.
This movie is very haunting. That's like, this movie has stuck with me. There's scenes in this movie that are like in my head, and I keep thinking about them. Yeah. Like, most of this movie is claustrophobic and frenetic and whatever, but like there are shots in this film where I'm like, oh my God, like these are like S tier shots just hidden in this movie. Like, the other shot that I really like, and I really think evokes a lot of the feelings of this film, is when he opens the door and walks outside, and there's an owl that lands on his shoulder, and he tries to shoo the owl away, but the owl stays, and then he turns his head, and we get a moment of him just like sitting kind of contemplating in the darkness in the doorway. And I was like, if that was in like an A24 horror film, like, it would not look out of place. Like, it just, you know what I'm saying? Like,
just immaculate composition. And
I think more people would like this film if it was all of that. Like, if the each shot was like that. And like, but they made a choice to film it the way they did. Because you can see that they're capable of that kind of shot composition. So they made a distinct choice to film it claustrophobic and frenetic and in people's faces, and you get to see like all of their sweat and oils and boils and just the ugliness of it, you know. Arcanar really reminds me of the Tower of Latria in Demon Souls. In Demon Souls, there is an area that you go to called the Tower of Latria, and you start in a place called the Prison of Hope, and it's not, there's no hope there. Everyone is suffering. You can hear people crying and screaming in the background, and there's jailers there who are, you know, there to really fuck up your day. And like, as you make it through this place, you see more and more just torture and suffering, and then you finally get to this big cathedral where this false deity is there giving people hope, and then if they're selected, they're taken up to the top, and at the top you walk out and you see this vast open desolated landscape of muck and blood and gore and viscera and just horrible shit. And I felt like that's what this film really reminded me of, is because like we get these super claustrophobic parts that are just in these dingy, rundown, gross environments, and then we'll pan back and we'll just reveal like, no, it's not just these rooms that we're in that are dingy and dark and rundown. The entire place is desolation.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what, like, when I was watching this film, I kept thinking about Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Which is a horror action RPG, so it makes sense. And I would classify this as horror. This is a horror film, not like in a traditional sense, but this is definitely a horror film because of its messaging, its themes, and its mood. It's